Welcome back to Elevate Academy. Today we're going to be looking at a few past questions from a grade 10 paper. So these three were from the same paper and they're based on factorization. If you want an in-depth guide to factorization, please click the link in the top corner. Okay, let's get going. So as with any factorization question, the first thing we check for is any common factor. So do we have any common factors here? Yes, we do. And we have x. So we take x out as a common factor. So what do we actually mean, or what do we actually do when we take out a common factor? So what we actually do is we take out the common factor and then we divide each term by the common factor. So in this case, first of all, we divide the first term by our common factor, 4x divided by x. The x's will cancel out, we'll be left with 4. And then we do the same thing for our negative x cubed. Divide that by x, and using our exponent law, we know that this exponent is 1. So it's just going to be negative x, 3 minus 1. We left with negative x squared. Okay. Okay, so that's the first step done. I say it's the first step because if we look within those brackets, we see that we have a perfect square, and a subtraction. Very important because we don't do sum of two squares, only the difference of two squares. And now we can sort that out. I'm just going to rewrite this as 2 squared minus x squared. And now we can use difference of two squares, 2 plus x, 2 minus x. Okay, that's relatively simple. Then we go to our next question, which we can see is a trinomial. Now, if you have a calculator to help you to do this, that's great. If not, you're going to have to know how to get the answer using the factors of the coefficient of the x squared and the constant. So the coefficient of the x squared is just simple, 1 and 1. But when we look at this 54, negative 54, there's quite a few pairs. First of all, 1 times 54, 2 times 27, 3 times 18, and 6 times 9. Now, the key here is that we're going to use one of these pairs and place them here. And then when we multiply them, we get two numbers, and the sum or difference of them must make up 15x. So in this case, we're going to use 3 and 18. So 3 and 18, and I'm just going to show you how to do this. And we cross multiply. So this is the only time that it will work when we are able to get the middle term. So 1 times 3 is 3. 1 times 18 is 18. Now, bear in mind, this is a negative 54. So there has to be a negative on one of these, not on both of these, because if it is on both of these, then we're going to get a positive. So it needs to be a negative, needs to be at one of these. Now it's quite clear that we need to put a negative here, negative, when we get a negative there. So 15 minus 3 is going to give us our middle term. So how we set up the solution, these are the solutions that count, and it's going to be x from here, x minus 3, and x plus 18. And we can check this answer. Now, this is not part of the solution. Our solution is done. But we're just going to check this up quickly using FOIL, x minus 3, x plus 18, and we see we're going to get x squared plus 18x minus 3x is going to be 15x, and then we're going to multiply the last terms, get negative 54. And we know our answer is perfect. Okay, so now moving over to the last one of this video. And here it's quite clear we don't have any common factors. This isn't a trinomial that we can factorize. So what we need to do here is we're going to use a method called factorization by grouping. So when we use factorization by grouping, we're now going to check Okay, which of these can I actually find a common factor for? And we look if you look here, it's quite clear. These two terms have a y, and but these two terms also have an x, and then we have a 1. So here we could choose to group these two terms, or we can choose to group these first two terms. Since it's written the way it is, I'm going to group these first two terms, and I'm going to find a common factor for the first two terms first. So within these two, I'm just going to show you this quickly, just for illustration purposes. We're going to group that. So these aren't brackets. Yes, they look like brackets, but I'm just showing you this to separate them. You can't like multiply them out. In fact, maybe it's a bad idea to draw it that way. I'm just going to show you that there's a separation here. Right? We're just going to do this part, factorize this part separately, and then this part separately as well. So here, when we factorize this, we take out y as a common factor, and we're left with 1 minus x. Now on these two, we see what we have here. We have a 1 minus x. So we're going to try and get a 1 minus x here as well. So I'm going to, and we can see here that this is a negative x and a positive 1. Here we have a positive x and a negative 1. Now, in order to change the sign of these two, we take out negative 1 as a common factor. And then we'll be left with negative x plus 1. Now we can rewrite that. We have 1 minus x. We can rewrite this. We just rearrange in it basically. Negative 1 into, we take the 1 and make it a positive, and we write the positive 1 minus x. Now we see something very interesting. We see we have a common factor once again. We have a 1 minus x in this term, and we have a 1 minus x in that term. So we take 1 minus x as a common factor. And now when we divide the first term by our common factor, so the first term is y, 1 minus x, and we divide by our common factor of 1 minus x. That cancels out. We left with y. And we use the same for the second one. Minus 1 into 1 minus x divided by our common factor 1 minus x. It cancels out with minus 1. And that's your final answer. I hope this helped. And if you guys still have any questions or unclear about anything that I've done in this video, please let me know in the comments. And if you guys need any additional assistance, please let me know as well. If anyone's interested in personal lessons, please contact the number found in the description. Thank you.